Okay.
Hi. Now the dogs are barking. It's crazy.
Hi, Kendrick.
Hey, how are you doing, Darlene? Rebecca?
This is Kendrick. And Rebecca.
Hi.
Hello there.
How you doing?
Good.
Excellent. Darlene, are you doing a call today?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
with Rebecca.
Right, okay.
Oh my
See, I
God.
love everyone's whiteboards.
It's been a busy day. It's been a busy day.
I know, yeah, I got the whiteboard. He's got boards.
Yeah.
I might have to take you for a tour of my office. I'm in my dining room because the light's the nicest, but my office is where the action happens. So
That's terrific. That's terrific.
Yeah, no, if I did that, all the dogs would be barking and the cats would be on my lap. So I had to lock myself
Okay.
in here.
Well, why don't you start? It's recording right now, and everyone's going to jump in. So I'll mute everyone as they come in.
Okay, sounds great. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we got another person.
Yeah.
Oh, Tatiana. Hi, Tatiana. Okay. Anyways, good evening, everyone. I'm Darlene Shannon, and I want to thank you for joining the Making of a Mindset Raw and Real. My 8th guest is a special guest who was interviewed by Eric Cooper for the Start Your Life movement and featured in Isogenics. It was this month, right? Yeah, it was this month.
yes.
Yeah. She is very successful in her short span with this amazing company and has utilized her success to live her dream life with her husband, the big guy, and her new baby, the little guy. She's the owner of Elevate Homes Realty and Mama Matters and the co-founder of Elevate Your Life Project. So this is Rebecca Cafiero.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. It's my honor and privilege to be on your call tonight. And I do have my 9-week-old next to me, so I apologize in advance if he decides to take a little attention from me.
Yeah, that's cool. So I brought Rebecca on here today because she was seriously successful in a short period of time. And we want to get her story because she's got a lot to offer on for all of us, actually. So I wanted to ask my first question. What was it about your childhood that formed the girl with incredible drive and passion for success?
Oh my goodness. As a new mother, this is an interesting question because, you know, they say that our personalities are developed very early on, and I'm hoping my little guy stays so sweet. But I think for me, so I grew up in Oregon, rural Oregon, very blue collar, on a farm. My dad is a commercial fisherman. So I definitely, you know, was not a stranger to hard work ethic. But my parents split when I was very young, and I saw how difficult it was for my mom as a single mom, you know, financially struggling. We qualified for welfare, and really at a young age said, you know, I don't want to be reliant on someone else for financial security. And also, you know, that stability to me was financial security. So at a very young age, I developed a work ethic and a real commitment to myself to not struggle after, you know, experiencing that as a child.
Oh no. And that is,
and then I paid, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
that is definitely what has given your drive.
Absolutely. And then when I went to college, I worked 2 full-time jobs in college, and, you know, I was always very afraid of debt. So it was just important to me to, you know, I always had multiple jobs just trying to make ends meet.
Yeah. You were a little powerhouse. I know you were a 6-figure income earner. Tell us briefly your success before network marketing.
Sure. So I thought I wanted to go to law school. So after I graduated from undergrad, my degree is in journalism. I worked for a daily paper for 3 years and pretty much figured out that I would be living at poverty level or below if I stayed as a writer. So I got into real estate at age 23, and specifically on the corporate side. So I was working for new home developers, so publicly traded companies. If you've ever been to like a model home park, that's the type of deal. And at a very young age, I was fortunate, or maybe unfortunate enough, to come into the boom. So this is, 2003 when, real estate sold like hotcakes, and started, I think by age 24, 25, I earned my first 6 figures. And it was definitely a crazy time. I didn't take a day off my first 2 years. I definitely was aware that industry or that market would not continue forever. But I was fortunate that I had a natural kind of propensity for sales, and I never thought I wanted to be a salesperson. but I loved connecting with people. I loved adding value, and I really saw myself as a consultant to, helping someone with a large purchase. So I did very well in real estate, and I actually continued in that I'm technically still in it, but really that was a 13-year career before I went to Isagenix or went to network marketing.
Yeah. And you were in Vegas. You went down
to Vegas. Correct. I started in Vegas. I was in Vegas from 2003, 2004 through about 2010. And, again, in that time, like earning multiple six figures was, I had a boss. I said, can I earn six figures? He goes, if you only earn 100,000, I will fire you because you're not producing enough. And I'm like, wow. Okay. But that all changed. I think, after 2007, when the market softened, or the, recession, depression, whatever you call it, was a very real reality check. I personally lost 7 figures. I lost all my assets. I shouldn't say I lost. I know exactly where they went. It was kind of like releasing, like we released weight and Isagenix. They went away and they weren't coming back. But it was definitely a tough time. And I think I really understood then about balance and also about residual income. I didn't know that was setting me up for a future in network marketing, but I always understood residual income as you buy a property, you pay it off, and then, you collect rent on it later. And then getting very burnt in real estate, despite the fact that I continued in that career, was definitely an education. So I was in Vegas for about 5-6 years, and then down in Southern California before coming up to Northern Cal for a position within the company that I worked for in real estate.
So you were always had a healthy diet. And even though you worked really hard and probably even got adrenal fatigue yourself, I don't know, probably you're close to it with the way you were working, because I know you still work pretty hard. You got a baby now. So you had a boyfriend, and your diet got even more extreme then during that period of time. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Sure. So I was always a healthy eater. Like I said, I grew up on a farm. I grew up with we made our own food, or we either cooked or canned, or, we had berry bushes. We grew up, I didn't know what organic was, but we were eating organic. Through my 20s, I stayed very healthy, I started going to Whole Foods and, eating again, an organic diet. I figured out that gluten and dairy didn't work for me. So I eliminated those things. But when I was 30, I was dating a wonderful young man. And he was super active. He was a semi-pro soccer player. He would surf daily, just very, very active. And he got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And that was definitely unexpected. He had no prognosis for survival at all. It was a very rare form of cancer. And that was really an experience in my life. It was definitely something that shaped, part of who I am today. One thing I would say about it is when you can't really help the health of someone, he was so far gone. He ended up living about another year after diagnosis. But when something like that happens, you a lot of times focus on what you can control. And I could control what I put into my own mouth. I could control my own health, I thought. So I really started to get obsessed with, everything related to cleansing. I got obsessed with everything related to like macronutrients, macrobiotics. So I started doing, vegan, and I did raw for 30 days, and I did colonics and infrared saunas that were supposed to help you detox. Alkaline water, like anything I could do by, any service I could get that was going to make me feel better. It was partly I was using myself as a guinea pig, trying to, find something that would help cure him as well. So yeah. I was a very clean eater before I found Isagenix.
Yeah. Definitely. I know. We both were talking about how we both went through that same experience. So that's a horrible story, and I'm really sorry about what happened, but it did kind of lead you in this direction to help other people and get them on a healthy lifestyle, and that clean eating isn't always just the answer to everything, that things can still happen. So tell me how you finally found the right nutrition just in time for your wedding, and how it changed your life at work.
Sure. So like I said, I've been eating really cleanly. I was engaged, and I remember seeing a photo of myself in a friend's wedding, walking down her aisle and just saying, oh my goodness, like what I thought I looked like inside didn't relate to what I looked like on the outside. And I'm a fairly small person. I'm 5'4". So I thought maybe it's 10 pounds or so, but I cleaned up my already clean diet even more. I was watching every calorie I put into my mouth. I would pretty much cut out all alcohol. I wasn't doing soda or caffeine. I couldn't really clean up my diet anymore, and I still wasn't getting results. And part of the reason, now that I know more, is a lot of it was related to my stress. In my position at the time, I was a VP of sales for a publicly traded company for their Northern California division. I had 50 employees. I was managing 400 million in real estate, and I was working, I don't even know. I'd say 60 plus hours a week. It was really hard to count because from 6 a.m. till 11 p.m. I didn't shut off, and I was answering emails. The cortisol levels were so high that I really think no matter what I had done, no matter how low or high my calories were, I could not have released weight because it was toxicity and inflammation. So I was so tired of doing like all the right things and working out and getting no results that when Isagenix was introduced to me, I was so eager to try something. But when I say try something, I'd already done all those cleanses. I'd already done the raw diet. I couldn't eat kale for like a year after that. So much kale. But I was just, I was just looking for something. And when they said cleanse, I was like, ooh, I love cleanses. But also they had a vegan system because that was really important for me. And I actually love the idea of meal replacements, but I'd never found anything that really fit in a health-wise what my standards were. I never found something that was soy-free, that was gluten-free, that was dairy-free. Except for Vigo One from Whole Foods, which I will say I did choke down. It was like chocolate dirt. But Isagenix, I like the idea that it was the system. And for me, being on the road 2 or 3 days a week in hotels, like something that I could plug and play was very, very attractive to me. And that's kind of why I got started. And I said, if I can release 5 pounds a month for 2 months, and then fit into go to my wedding dress fitting, feeling good, then that's worth it. I had no idea that 2.5 years later, I would still be consuming the products every day.
Yeah, you lost 18 pounds and you weren't even expecting to lose that much weight, right?
Correct. I think it's partly because, we set our goals based upon what we've achieved before. And I don't remember ever in my adult life, like being the weight that I became on Isagenix. And not that it's about weight. It's really, about your inches, about your inflammation. But I never felt better in my body. And I was 34 years old. So to have those type of results was amazing physically. I just felt so good in my physical body. But even more importantly than how I looked is, day 5, that magical day 5, I woke up and I'm like, my energy was off the charts. And so embarrassing. I used to nap in my car before getting back on the freeway. Because, I live in the Bay. I had an hour commute to work and 90 minutes back, 4 days a week. And then 1 day a week to our main office, it was 2.5 hours to 3 hours each way. So naps in the car, in a parking lot, or in a, outside of a grocery store were pretty common for me before this. And I woke up feeling so good. I wasn't congested. I didn't have the sugar cravings. I just it was very quickly for me that I realized this was going to be my lifestyle.
So that's how the business sort of took off, I think, because while you were at work, everybody was noticing how much energy you had and they were all dragging still.
Well, and I started in December. So it was the energy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. I feel so good. And I'm a naturally energetic person, but I always crashed. So I was more of like an anxious energy versus like feel good energy. And I was tightly wound, I guess you'd say. Onyx kind of unwound me. But also it was Christmas. And so we had these, tables of Christmas goodies that everyone's like, eating and then crashing from. And I wasn't even looking at them. And they know I have a sweet tooth. So everyone's like, you're not eating the peanut brittle and the, caramel corn and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I don't have a desire. I have my little fat burning chocolates. And that's definitely when people started to notice.
Yes, little this, I'm cleansing today.
Exactly. I know. I got mine coming tomorrow.
I know. I just got mine in, so I was like, yay! Oh, and of course, my snack right now too. But I love it.
That was it. Is people saw a physical change, and I was really actually quite closed off. I'd say in the beginning, somebody said, "Oh, you can get your products paid for if you share." The girl that enrolled me, and it was really kind of snotty because, being a multiple 6-figure income earner already, I'm like, I don't have time for that. I'm like, that's great. And I'm sure for like stay-at-home moms or people that, are like have a second job, that's fantastic. But like, I have no bandwidth for anything extra. Yeah, I just didn't realize that I'm a female. When I love something, I can't stop talking about it like this. So it was a very natural thing to share. And I had to share with someone other than my husband. He's like, you've already told me 10 times today how good you feel. So I had to tell other people.
And your husband liked it right away too.
Well, actually, he was a little skeptical. So when he knows I'm really health conscious. I cleaned up his diet when we moved in together. I kind of threw away all this stuff. And, I did the grocery shopping, so he ate cleaner. But he was always a clean eater. It just, I'm like, honey, a 7-Eleven turkey sandwich doesn't count as a good meal. But I got started, and actually he was like, this can't be good for you. He goes, you have way too much energy and you're losing weight too quickly. This has got to like have ephedrine in it. So I said, go ahead, do your research, you know, be my guest. And he did, and he was impressed, but he still thought it was a chick diet. And so, you know, 45 days in or so, I'm like, you need to do this. You need to do this. You're doing, you know, muscle milk and Metarex bars. And he waited, he waited about 6 months, and it was a knockdown drag out to get him to start. You know, he's like, well, you stop bugging me if I just drink your shakes in the morning. I'm like, yes, I will. And the vitamins. So because his doctor is like, yeah, you could take a multivitamin. You could benefit from that. And he started off with a shake a day and the, you know, the vitamins with Isagenesis, product B at the time. And 5 days later, I overhear him telling his friend, you know, she's got me on this system, but I have to admit, I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
And eventually did the whole thing. And now, of course, like he consumes more than me because he's 6'8" and 260 pounds. So yeah, we're an ISA family.
Yes. Awesome. And
I'll give you a tour of my pantry later.
I know, right? You should.
I will.
Oh, I wish I had a picture of your wedding dress in your wedding pictures, but oh my God, spectacular pictures done. You had an amazing photographer, apparently. Oh my God. Is she on the products too?
No, that she's on my list. She's on my list for sure.
She's still on your list, the not now list. Yeah.
She's on my it's gonna happen list.
Awesome. So I guess tell me how long it took for you to get to 6 figures with Isagenix once you decided to finally do it.
Sure, that's a great question. Great question. So like I said, I started December of 2013. I think I enrolled my first person accidentally in February. And when I say accidentally, I meant I was not in any way purposefully sharing. It was a combination of friends that saw me that hadn't seen me for a month or so, and what are you doing? And then also just people that saw me in day to day. So I've had a couple coworkers that got started. So I think I'd enrolled, and my husband, maybe 10 or 11 people in my first 5 months. But again, I was not in any way actively doing this. So it was end of April. I've been on product now about 4.5 months. And my sponsor said, how much money have you earned? And I said, well, and I had no idea how the comp plan worked. I'm embarrassed to say. I just didn't check into it. So I told her, I said, I think about $300, which makes sense, about $25 a person, because I've gotten free vitamins twice. She's like, no. How much have you earned on your card? I'm like, what card? Well, I've been filing everything Isagenix sent me into a drawer. I knew it wasn't a bill. I paid for my product with my credit card. And so I went to the drawer, and, you know, I had my consultant thing. I'm like, I don't know what that is. It doesn't matter. And I opened the envelope with my credit card, and I had almost $2,500 on it. And I went, wow. So that did 2 things. Like, one is I said that doesn't even make sense to me. I come from real estate where I was paying salespeople, you know, like say 1 to 3%. I'm like, how is that possible? But secondly, you know, we always have a tendency to spend what we earn regardless of what our earning is, unless we have a savings plan. And so every month, you know, we would, you know, spend money. We traveled a lot, but also I had a friend with cancer. And every month I was giving $100 to help out with her family because she couldn't work. She had to stop her PhD program. And that month I had all this extra money that I hadn't counted on. So I'm like, I'm going to buy patio furniture. It was, you know, it's getting to be springtime. But then also I said, I'm going to give Amanda, my friend, $500 this month because this is extra money I didn't count on. And that felt so good. And that's really, I think, what kind of sparked it. I was like, wow, I would have already shared with people, my friends, regardless of being compensated. But now that I have been compensated, I can pay some of that forward to someone that really needs it. And I remember she sent me an email that was like, Rebecca, we were praying for this because they were doing some experimental testing and they needed, you know, some extra money to pay for it. And that's when I started to kind of get the light bulb on. So I'm trying to think. I did a social media post then. I did a before and after, and had, I think, 40 people reached out. I mean, I had a good network, and I hadn't posted anything about it, so I had a lot of people reaching out and enrolled a lot. But then 30 days later, I went to ICU Seattle, and that was a catalyst. Seeing people walk across the stage that were, you know, normal everyday people, you know, teachers and moms and hairstylists and trainers. But more importantly is how happy they were. I was so stressed out of my job. It looked so good on paper. I'm like, yeah, I have a great title and I have, you know, employees and I have a great income, but I was just drowning in stress. You know, I would get home and I was a zombie. I had to have my glass or two of vino to unwind because I hadn't discovered it. Well, even after Ionix, I was drinking more Ionix, but I still was really stressed. And I mean, Isagenix did make my job a little easier, or it made me be able to deal with it easier. But I could see that I was like, I can't do this forever. And I think the biggest why then, and I didn't know it was a why, I didn't know that was a thing, was I wanted to have kids. TikTok, I was 35 then. And I knew that doing what I was doing, like I couldn't be the type of parent I wanted to be. I mean, I was on the road 2 or 3 days a week. Like, how do you do that with a newborn? But I didn't have any idea of how I could get out of that situation without, let's say, going back into sales and then working weekends, or doing something where I had to work weekends and then I wouldn't see my husband. So that ISO sparked it. So sorry, long answer to your question is, how long did it take me to be a 6-figure income earner? So I started to purposefully share, let's call it June 1st. It was May 29th was like, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. I made my list. I started calling people. May 29th, I hit Crystal Executive 1-star June 30th. So about 30 days later, and then 2-star about 30 days later. And it was just that when I knew what I wanted to do, like I'm a very goal-driven person. So, and I don't make excuses. So I set goals and then I work backwards. And I started finding every pocket in my time because I didn't think I had time. And I found a way to do an income producing activity, to do an enrollment, and I just went for it. But I replaced my income by end of September. I hit 3-star. That was basically my salary. And I gave my notice and I quit my job, or finished my career December 31st, 2014. So a year and a half ago almost.
Yeah. Oh, it's easy. So how many months did that take for you to get to 2-star?
From the time I started purposely, I was fortunate that, I had people enrolling. So I started to have a downline before I even knew what a downline was. But from the time I purposely started building, from my first post, May, June, July, August, September, 4 months from the time that I really kind of caught the fire. So I was very fortunate. I mean, it happened quickly. My team grew very quickly. I did a lot of things wrong. I did things right, but I was so fired up, and I love recognition. I love goals and deadlines. So, I had a Crystal Executive deadline that was about to approach because I didn't build for 5 months. So when I started to build, I had 30 days to hit executive. And of course I was going to do that. I was like, it's going to happen. I don't know how, but it's going to happen. I had to use a vacation day to sit and enroll people and turn in and help do 3-way calls one time. I'm like, I'm using that vacation day because I'm going to hit this. So
now you've got a girl that you signed up that
yes,
did very spectacular. She even went on a cruise. Oh no.
I said yes. So yes, I met her, and so most of the people I've enrolled have been most of my network. Now, some of them have been casual acquaintances. Some have been friends from high school I hadn't talked to in 18, 19 years. Some are friends, family, coworkers, etc. But I have definitely met people out and about that I have enrolled. And one of them was a girl. I was down for Celebration this past year, 2015, in San Diego, and I was actually doing my photo shoot for Start the next day. So I went to get an organic spray tan because I'm pretty pale, and I was also 5 months pregnant. I hadn't told anyone, so I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to look like my after picture in these photos. I need a tan." And so I went to get an organic spray tan, and this girl was wonderful. She was 23 years old, just adorable. And asked me, she's like, "Oh my gosh, you have great energy. And like, what are you in town for?" She was being conversational. She was just a good business person. And, I shared with her, I was there for a wellness conference, and I didn't get into the specifics, just, chatted, but I got I handed her my phone at the end. I said, "Oh, Facebook friend me and would love to follow you," and vice versa. So she friended me and did a little Facebook stalking of me, which I was super flattered by, and said, "Oh my gosh, what do you do? I'm really intrigued." So I sent her my Start talk, which I'd done the month before. And like 45 minutes later, this is like 11 o'clock at night, she said, "Can we meet for coffee tomorrow? I want to find out more." I said, "Yes." So I met her for coffee, for tea. And, and we really dug in deep. And I said, I found out about her boyfriend, who was he's a Navy pilot, and he was being deployed for 7 months, and about her college debt and, how stressed she was. And the fact that, this was a girl that had a degree in basically like marketing, special events, was just so vivacious, yet she is making $250 a week as a receptionist in a blow dry bar, and then doing her spray tan business on the side. And so she was really financially struggling. Her parents worked for Amway, or had for Amway Corporate. So I knew she was open to network marketing. And I invited her to come to Celebration with me. And she came on Sunday just for one day and saw Hillary Courtney, just got lit up. So I enrolled her. And I mean, she business built from day one. And I told her, I'm like, I'm going to teach you all the things that I did wrong so you can not do them. And we're going to get you fired off the right way. But she went executive within 90 days, or crystal exec, and then qualified for the Riviera trip. She was one of the top 5 start members because she enrolled a ton and she rank advanced. She's created over 20 consultants in 7 months, which is amazing. And I learn from her every day. She's incredible on social media. Incredible. Like Instagram queen. So
awesome.
I mean, seriously, I like over 30. I'm like, I don't really get this Instagram thing. I'm posting on it, but like now I get it. It's wonderful.
Either. I'm going to watch you now. I totally don't.
Right. Well, watch. Her name's Mackenzie Blanchard. Follow her.
I will. Awesome. Oh my God. So how do you help motivate your business partners? It sounds like you just picked the right ones to me. I don't know.
Well, and I haven't always, in the very beginning, I didn't really have that conversation. I was like, oh, if you love what if you love your 30-day system, or your, whatever system they started on, at the end of 30 days, maybe we can do a post and your before and afters. And I just didn't set people up for success. I tiptoed around it because my belief wasn't totally there. And then I realized, like, how selfish is this? Like, I'm working my rear off, enrolling these people, helping them have a good experience so that I can leave my job, but I'm not giving them the same opportunity. So I started to change my language and my dialogue, and started realizing it's not about getting to someone a consultant. It's about getting them to crystal manager and beyond. Because once someone's at a manager, they're not falling out like a consultant will. And they usually understand they understand how to enroll someone and how to help that person rank advance. And they also are typically cycling enough where their products are more or less paid for. And once someone gets products paid for, they don't want to pay for them, Plus, they've enrolled enough people usually that they've had those great texts, I didn't know I could have this much energy. I didn't know I could feel this good. So that's really what I focused on. But also, I got to a point where I realized I was dragging people. So I was having people that I was trying so hard to get to consultant. I was spending so much time and energy, and that was time and energy that I wasn't then able to spend with people that really wanted to run with me. And there's this great saying that spend your time where it's deserved, not where it's needed. And when that sunk into me, that like the people that ask me, and not, first of all, there's no stupid question, but the people that ask me 19 times, like, where can I find this? Where can I find that? And I'd send them like, don't be the answer. Give them a resource. It's so true. Like, just show them a tool. So send them to ICE FYI, have them search. There's so many resources out there, and you can see the people that never really learn. They're always wanting you to do it for them. And I try to wean those people off of me. And you always, with love, I mean, you always want to support people, but I started really focusing on the people that were self-starters, the people that worked hard. And I knew that those were the type of people that I wanted to partner with. Someone like Mackenzie, who, she's coming up with their own ideas, and I'm learning from her, and she's my partner. She's my co-collaborator. She's not my employee. And I tell people, I'm not your boss. I can tell you what I've done and how it worked for me, and I'll also tell you what didn't, because you might have a better way of doing it that's going to work for all of us. But, I think it's really important to make sure that you're finding that balance between supporting someone but also empowering them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's perfect. Well, we are getting closer to time to do the Q&As, actually, a minute left. So we've got a few people on here. Who do we have on here? We can open up the lines for questions and answers, and she's available for any kind of questions. I've got a million of them, but I already asked them, so I don't get to. So everybody, you are available. Anybody who's available to ask questions. Christy, Mindy, Tatiana, Kendrick, and our other guests.
Everybody's unmuted.
All right. Tatiana.
Hi, how you doing? This is great information. Thank you so much, Rebecca. My question is, now that you have a big downline, how do you keep, do you do calls with your team every week? Do you control your team in that way? Do you tell them to when you go to events, do you go with them together? How do you become a leader of such a big team?
Sure. Absolutely. That's a great question. Well, one is really utilizing the Facebook group. So we have our private Facebook page that's for product support, accountability, and inspiration, and then we also have our business page. And one is just really making sure that you maintain a great culture within your product support page. And one thing I realized early on is I don't want to be irreplaceable. Like in my old job security meant that nobody could do what I did. And I don't want that to be the situation here. So I really work hard on teaching my leaders so that they can teach others. So I'm not the only person they come to for answers. But I definitely utilize the business reports, like the business blueprint under View My Team, whatever position you're in, that shows, who's halfway to consultant, that shows, who is going to get a double PIB if they enroll one more person, is really utilizing those reports and then teaching other people to use them. So that they can do the same thing, teaching them how to reach down, teaching them how to use ISAPulse for recognition. Like just showing people duplication is so important.
Yeah.
We do weekly training calls. It's either a training call or a Zoom. So like this week it's more lifestyle based versus hardcore back office. So this week it's about understanding different relationships with areas of their life and their health. But then next week it's specifically on autoship and why someone wants to be an active associate. So we'll do those things. We have a Podomatic station. And so if somebody asks me a question like, how do I share people with the people? Or what do I say when they ask me? Instead of telling them, I send them, I'm like, here you go. 30-second 30-second story podcast or social media. I mean, I always refer them to a resource because that's duplicatable.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. And now with the new app to go, that you can use that too, because that's amazing.
Absolutely. And I also think that it's very important to always involve in the enrolling sponsor. So if I'm sending a message out to someone that's about to become a consultant, I will message or I'll put their enrolling sponsor on it because I want them to see how I do my business, because that's going to give them ideas for doing it themselves. They might use the same thing or they may tweak it in a way that is a better fit for them. So a lot of three-way calls, a lot of duplication.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else want to ask a question?
No questions.
Okay, so Rebecca, thank you very much for being on. The question I have, when you're meeting people, I'm a little older, so when you meet people in the start group to try to relate to them, what is the typical conversation that you would have? I don't want to say dragging somebody in, but trying to share with them the information. How would you set about, the 18 to 35,
So, and it's funny because I always said that I had a hard time actually resonating with the start group because I, from age 23, was in a corporate environment working with people that were typically in their 40s and 50s. So I had to grow up very fast. I was wearing a three-piece suit when I was, 23. But I don't feel it's necessarily different than anyone else. I mean, it's connecting with them. It's finding out what's important to them. That conversation, the only thing that changes is the vernacular, is the verbiage. So that's really the same of any age. Now, I do notice that I mirror, and that's probably because I do come from a sales background, but meaning if somebody's higher energy, you're going to be higher energy. If someone's slower and more methodical, you're going to match them at that. But always you want to have a great energy. But for the start group, I mean, I would say asking them about what they're looking for in life. People that are 18 to 35 are a lot different than, say, the Generation X even, which is they are typically a lot more creative. They're not saying that people my age, because I'm technically out of the start group, I'm not saying that they're not creative, but I was taught to go get a job and get security. And people now in their 20s, I mean, with things like lifestyle blogging and all of these more creative, like work from home jobs, they're a lot more open to this. Mm-hmm. So just finding out what they're looking for and what their ideal day looks like. It's no different, except that they're typically not as rooted in debt, in mortgages, in marriages. They don't have kids usually. So they're usually a lot more open. But again, with anyone, it's connecting first, and then it's building value. Regardless of age, I don't look at it as I'm recruiting someone. I don't look at it as I'm closing a sale. I look at it as connecting with this person and building value. And a lot of times Isagenix is not going to come up in a first, second, or even third conversation. It might be connecting them with someone for a job they're looking for. Because if they trust me because I built value for them, then Isagenix is going to be a very, very natural conversation.
That's great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I just want to ask a question for Andrea. Andrea says that the neighbor's kids are so loud. Right, Andrea? So she's not able to ask the question. So her question is, how do you manage your list? And do you use a CRM or paper list tracker?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I come from the CRM world, from real estate. I have used things before. There's one called ClinchPad that's free for your first 100 people, but I still think that the best way to have your list is to have it in front of you. So I have a whiteboard with probably 300 names on it. And, I use the whiteboard, but a lot of times I'll just write on just a little Post-it, who am I focusing on that week? And I'll put that, right over my desk, and I can give you a tour of my office. But that keeps, in fact, my husband just actually erased my entire list, even though he took a picture of it first because he needed the whiteboard. So I have this, this picture of 300 people, and I'll just kind of go through it and do something that I love from Laura Stevens. That's called Kiss or Hug, Hug, Kiss. And it's where instead of, let's say, reaching out to someone on Facebook that you haven't talked to forever and being like, oh, I've got this opportunity I want to tell you about, which sounds really spammy. And when I get those, I'm like, no way. But the Hug, Hug, Kiss is where you go and you look at their Facebook and you're like, I want this person in my business. Now that could mean I think they're an amazing influencer or they have a great network and I would love to collaborate with them. I love their energy, etc. I mean, it really needs to come from a place of love. But you go on and you comment or you like a few pictures and then you comment on one. And what's going to happen is they're going to show up in your newsfeed, or you're going to show up in their newsfeed, and they're going to look at your profile because they're going to be interested in what you're doing if you're not normally coming up. And if you've done a good job of curating intriguing, interesting, energetic Facebook or Instagram account, they're most likely going to reach out to you and say, what are you up to? Mm-hmm. And that way it puts it on them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I like that.
Incredible. I love that. Hug, hug, kiss. I love that. Because you're absolutely right. Because far too many times that when we do reach out for people, we're zero straight into the conversation of ISIS instead of hugging them and liking,
right,
and building that rapport.
Absolutely. And I love Eric Worre, and I love some of the stuff out there, the templates. And I know when I started, I was like, oh, text splits, these are so great. We could set appointments. But then I found that for myself, and I have a background in sales, and for my team that, well, what do I say to the person once I set up an appointment? It got so uncomfortable that it wasn't natural. So that's where I find that just, the more you can do to create an organic conversation, the better. Another thing I love to do for new people starting out is before they, let's say, do a Facebook post, and maybe they'll be like, oh, I'm so excited I'm starting this new thing. But what I find is really effective that I'd love to share is make a list. That could be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people. And so when you start someone new, have them reach out and message all these people and just say, listen, I'm starting something new. I'm starting something new to feel good, whatever it is. Don't give a lot of information. But I'm really looking for accountability. And I really respect you because of X, Y, or Z. I would love to just be able to report to you weekly for accountability. Would that be okay? Well, of course the person's going to say yes. They're going to be flattered. So then be like, okay, great. Now, if somebody reaches out to 10 people with that, most likely 4 or 5 people are going to say, what is this? What are you doing? I want to hear more. Yeah, I want something for energy. And then they're asking you. So it makes it much more organic versus trying to pitch it to them. But then secondly, even if they don't ask, that first week when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm 7 days in, I feel amazing. Wasn't as good about working out this week as I thought I was going to be. Or, yeah, I fell off the wagon, I had some pizza, but I'm back on it. But when you reach out to that person, they're going to probably give you kudos. They may again ask what you're doing. And then lastly, when you decide to do that Facebook post, you can say, hey, I'm going to be a little vulnerable and I'm going to do a Facebook post. Would you support me and give me a little love when I do it? And then it's not just Isagenix people supporting you. So I love that. And it's a really soft approach